Amazing twist. Little girl's heartfelt plea for a puppy reveals the hidden CEO who fired her mom. Lily clutched her tiny piggy bank, the weight of it pressing against her small frame. It promised hope, the key to unlocking laughter and light in her home again. Ever since her mother had been let go from the startup that once felt like a promise, the air in their house had thickened with worry. She could feel it settling like dust over her childhood memories of laughter, security, and warmth. To save her mother from despair, she believed a puppy might just be the answer. As she concocted her heartfelt speech to sway her mother, tears threatened to spill over. She would explain how sunshine could pop back into their lives, how little paws could dance away despair. But then one day, while sorting through the chaos in their living room, she stumbled upon an article that sent a chill through her. The headline blared, "Local tech startup CEO unveils new strategy, but at what cost?" Beneath it was a picture of Tom, the man who had once been Uncle Tom, the amiable face of family gatherings and holiday feasts. Her heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of emotions, betrayal, confusion, and an unsettling fear. How could he have done this? And why did their family ties appear to be so fragile? She wanted to believe Tom was still good, but with that single web page, her innocence began to fray. Suddenly, she wasn't just saving her allowances for a puppy, but fighting against a tide of broken family bonds. The thought of her mom, shoulders slumped and eyes dimmed with stress, suffocated her heart. Bills piled high on the table spoke volumes of reality, blending anguish into every corner of their home. Could a puppy really fix that? Or even worse, would her innocent hope only pile on more heartache? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. So there she stood, frail yet fierce, as she wrestled with the thought of confronting her uncle. It didn't take long for her resolve to harden. If Uncle Tom could dismiss her mother with a wave of a hand, then Lily would face him with her own fierce tenacity. The electrical buzz of uncertainty hummed in her ears as she approached the office, the imposing glass doors reflecting a world of polished wood and glowing screens, a stark contrast to the cozy home she craved to restore. Her breaths came quick and erratic, her heart a staccato drum. She spotted him beyond the sleek furniture. Tom looked older, wearier, collateral damage of decisions that stripped meaning from family. He met her gaze, surprise flickering across his features. "Uncle Tom," she whispered, her innocent voice trembling. I need to talk to you about Mom and about getting a puppy." The initial shock hung thick in the room, the echo of her words drawing an invisible line between them. Would he be able to see the anguished child behind her eyes? The room pulsed with tension, and in that moment, as the weight of family history played out like a tragic script, Lily felt the grinding gears of love and loyalty jerk between grinding reality and the innocence she desperately held on to. Would it be enough to restore what had been lost? As she awaited his reply, the air around her became electrified with uncertainty, her breath hitching in her throat, the stakes impossibly high. The gaze that passed between them was thick with unspoken words, the silence amplifying the weight of the moment. Uncle Tom's surprise morphed into a mask of concern, though whether it was for Lily or himself was indiscernible. It struck Lily how quickly the jovial man she had known grew distant, transformed by the harsh realities she barely understood. "Lily," he began, his voice unsteady, I can't discuss work matters with you." Her heart pounded louder, each beat echoing the urgency of her plea. "But it affects Mom. You did this to her." The tremor in her voice pierced the remnant of their familial bond, igniting a spark of confrontation within her that had long been simmering beneath her hopeful exterior. Tom loosened his tie, the gesture a futile attempt to ease the palpable pressure in the room. "You have to understand, business decisions—" "No," Lily retorted, her small fists clenched. "Business isn't just business if it hurts people you love." Her innocence wrapped tightly around bravado each time she spoke, weaving a fabric that covered fear but celebrated her newfound strength. She was terrified of the man who had once showered her with affection, now apparently a stranger to her own home life. But that fear morphed into a fierce determination. She wouldn't back down. "Lily, this isn't what you think," he pressed, the authority in his voice wavering under the weight of her gaze. "What I think is that you're hiding behind a company when you should be fixing this. You hurt my mom, and you didn't care." Her breath came in quick gasps, her resolve hardening, clarity focusing her emotions. For a moment, she felt the thrill of tackling an adult response head-on, the raw nerve of defiance electrifying her. In the span of mere moments, Lily's spirit shifted from restless child to an unyielding beacon of dignity and truth. She could sense she was tossing the very foundation of her uncle's justifications into a storm beyond his control. But clarity was illuminating her path. This was not simply about getting a puppy. This was about reclaiming her family and reversing a tide of despair. Silence stretched between them, laden with unsaid confessions and the echo of choices made in favor of profit over people. As the tension simmered, Lily took a step forward, her heart racing not merely from fear, but with the thrill of empowerment. Standing toe-to-toe with the man who had the power to free her mother anchored her determination. She was tired of feeling like a patient listener to adult woes. A shift had occurred, and she needed to craft a new reality where her voice was heard. "So, what are you going to do about it?" she challenged, eyes bright with defiance, every ounce of vulnerability replaced with a quiet authority that surprised even her. Tom's expression shifted, a brewing storm behind his eyes as he dithered between seeing the child before him or grappling with the magnitude of the truth she revealed. I can't guarantee anything, but I'll consider it," he responded cautiously, the words spilling from him like conditioned reflexes, shielded by the veneer of business jargon. "Consider it?" she echoed, the fire within her momentarily flickering. "I want you to promise me." She stood unyielding, the simplicity of her ask echoing louder with each heartbeat. Could this be the beginning of something more than a fight for a puppy? Could it forge a bridge between the fractured bonds of family lost to corporate ambition? As she held his gaze, a cascade of emotions flitted across his face: regret, doubt, vulnerability. But the conversation was far from over. Though she had lit a match in the darkness, a smoldering conflict still loomed in the air, one that demanded resolution. "Let me discuss some things this week," Tom suggested finally, though the unease in his tone lingered. Lily nodded, still wary but emboldened by the progress she had made. She would not let this go. One message had been transmitted clear as day. Family came first, even tangled in the web of corporate loyalty. Outside the office, the world buzzed on, unaware of the tempest brewing in her small heart. Would she be able to trust Uncle Tom again? And just how far would she go to ensure her mother's happiness? How many difficult conversations would be required to unravel the complexities of loyalty and love? With each step away from his office, she felt the ground beneath her twist, the implications of her next actions looming larger, the horizon of rehabilitation pulling her forward. Would she have to dive deeper into the tech world uninvited to salvage her family? One thought raced forward. She was just getting started. The days that followed felt like a limbo suspended between hope and dread. Lily's heart carried the weight of her confrontation with Uncle Tom, her mind racing with possibilities of what could come next. The urgency of her mission to unearth the truths woven into corporate decisions sparked a fire deep within her. Fire, however, didn't merely flicker. It was becoming a beacon, guiding her through the uncertainty that loomed ahead. Determined to take action, Lily began to formulate a plan. She'd spent countless hours reading articles about the company, absorbing everything from financial statements to news reports. Each piece of information revealed a tapestry of interconnected lives, stories hidden beneath the surface of cold business strategies. The more she discovered, the more resolute she grew in her resolve that she needed to bridge the divide between family and corporate reality. But fueled by urgency, Lily encountered an unsettling reality. Her research was merely academic and lacked the personal touch needed to evoke the emotional resonance required for change. She had to find a way to transform the data, her narrative, one that could reach fingers deep into the heart of the decision makers. Not only did she want her mother back, but she also wanted to reclaim family warmth that had been lost. That weekend, while her peers thrived on Bluetooth connectivity and video games, Lily found herself drafting a letter, targeting its essence towards her uncle. It felt more authentic than any hastily spoken word. As she wrote, she poured her fears, hopes, and anger into each stroke of her pen. She sought to weave personal anecdotes with facts, binary language of the corporate world, entwined with human emotion. What resonated in her letter was more profound than regret. It reflected how corporate decisions impacted real people. Each line was a lament for her mother's stolen joy, a plea for recognition of their shared humanity in the face of corporate machinery. She wanted to show Tom that the numbers on spreadsheets represented lives entangled in obligations and responsibilities, not just figures rolling across a screen devoid of emotional weight. Yet, rooted deep in her gut, a fear of vulnerability brewed. Were her words strong enough to break through the walls her uncle had built in the name of business? What if he dismissed her letter, just as he had dismissed her concerns in their last meeting? The thought made her hesitate, but the anger from their confrontation ignited her courage. On Monday, she purposefully entered his office, her letter clutched between her hands like a shield. She knocked gently, the serenity of the morning shattered by her tumultuous spirit. Tom looked up, surprise flashing across his face as she stepped inside, determination like an armor draped around her small frame. "Lily, he began, but she held up a hand, cutting him off with a conviction only age could misinterpret as youthful fervor. "I need you to read this." She thrust the letter towards him, her heart racing. "It's important." The air thickened as silence enveloped them. Tom's brow furrowed, as if her audacity rattled him. She watched as he unfolded the pages, the tension packing the air tighter with each passing second. She could see him begin to read, trying to maintain the authority of an adult that felt crumbling around her. The edges, gradually uncovering a daughter's heart bleeding between finance and familial duty. As he read, time seemed suspended. Would he heed her call or allow the constructs of his role to drown out her voice? Would he simply return to the space of comfort where business eclipsed family? The hand of fate hung in delicate balance as he moved to turn the final page. In that moment, she realized she was not just fighting for her mother. She was staking a claim for her own identity, for the child who had grown from helplessness to empowerment, a testimony against the pervasive absence of compassion in professional realms. Her actions would define not only their futures, but also the legacy they would leave behind. Just as Tom reached the conclusion, their eyes met. Could he finally see her? Did this letter open a path to understanding? Realization flooded her. This was just the beginning, and she was prepared to navigate whatever came next. Uncle Tom's reaction would determine their course, for better or worse. She braced herself. Another decision lay ahead, one that might change everything. What comes next, Uncle? She thought, the fluttering anxiety mingling with self-assured anticipation. The moment of truth arrived, yet tension still nestled in the air like an uninvited guest, ready to unravel everything. Tom's gaze lingered on the empty space above Lily's head, as if he were weighing her letter against a ledger of profit and loss. The moments stretched taut, and with each passing second, the tumult in her chest grew heavier. The divide she had always sensed in their relationship felt more pronounced now. It wasn't just business. This was family, bound by blood, yet tethered by choices made in boardrooms and not living rooms. "Lily," he finally said, his voice deliberately slow, each syllable morphing into cautious constructs of authority. "I appreciate your passion, but you must understand that my decisions aren't personal. They are business." "The business affects people, Uncle," she interjected, her voice firm despite the tremor that threatened to betray her. "It affects us. It has cost us our family." His eyes flicked to hers, and for a brief moment she saw the confusion there. The flicker of a man caught between duty and affection, a wave of uncertainty cresting over a steadfast facade. It was then she realized that he was not her adversary, but an unwilling participant in an insatiable system, one that consumed everything in its path, including him. Taking a step back, Lily gathered herself. She needed a strategy beyond just words. Her fingers itched to draw a more concrete link between the facts and the stories of the people behind them. As she exited his office, the sense of urgency propelled her into a new phase. Information could become influence, and she needed to find the stories that would resonate with Tom's sensibilities. Lily knew exactly where to start. She tapped into her social media skills, assembling pieces of content that laid bare the human consequences behind corporate decisions, interviews with former employees, snippets of heartfelt testimonials, and hidden grievances flickered like neon signs against the cold landscape of corporate disparity. It was time to make the unseen seen. In class, of all places, she found a coalition of peers from varied backgrounds, many of whom possessed skills in digital storytelling, graphic design, and public speaking. She pitched her idea, outlining how this wasn't merely a project, but a crusade to bring humanity back into the business world, a reclamation of values lost to faceless spreadsheets. As she pored over the collaborative effort, a sense of clarity washed over her. This was more than just a project about her mother. It was a conversation about ethics, about how corporate environments often strip identities down to mere profit margins. With each passing day, she honed her skills, mastering the art of persuasion through visual and emotional connection. Her insight into the corporate machine deepened, and alongside her collaborators, she transformed their findings into a powerful multimedia presentation. However, as the day of the presentation approached, doubt seeped in like a creeping shadow. Who was she to challenge echoing chambers of decades-old business practices? What if they didn't listen? She could easily revert to the little girl paralyzed by uncertainty, but envisioning her mother, her tired smile shrouded by disappointment, rekindled her resolve. The night before the big day, Lily lay awake, tossing between excitement and apprehension. This was not just about delivering data, it was about igniting conversation, pressing for change. Would Tom finally listen, or would the constructs of corporate loyalty entrap him once more? As dawn broke, she felt the pulse of determination coursing through her as she prepared for the presentation. The stakes were higher than ever. This was her moment to unveil the humanity cloaked beneath corporate decisions. With the clock ticking toward the meeting, she knew there would be no turning back. Her heart thudded like a drum in her chest as she prepared to face not only her uncle, but the very machine that betrayed their family. "Let him see," she whispered to herself, "the person beneath the titles, the heart beneath the commerce." But what if her plea ignited a revelation more painful than she anticipated? Would she be able to forge a new respect, or would it unravel everything she had tried to build? The ground beneath her felt both secure and treacherous, an entanglement of hope and fear breathing life into her quest. As she stood ready, a new tension surged. She was grasping for change, but was she prepared for the consequences? As Lily stepped into the boardroom, the weight of the moment settled heavily on her shoulders. The long table, polished to a reflective sheen, was surrounded by stern faces, executives she had known her entire life yet never felt truly connected to. Tom sat at the head, his expression masked, betraying nothing of the internal struggle she hoped to exploit for the sake of her cause. Staring at the illuminated screen behind her, anxiety curled in her stomach. Could she truly bridge the chasm that divided her and the rest of the corporate leaders? She clenched her fists, a subtle reminder that this was her chance to shatter preconceived notions and demand accountability, whatever the cost. "Good morning, everyone," she began, forcing her voice to steady, battered yet unyielding. "Today, I'm not just here to share numbers or graphs. I'm here to present you with stories. Stories that matter, stories that remind us all of the people behind the business decisions we make every day." She clicked to the first slide, revealing a smiling face. "This is Jenna, a former employee whose life changed drastically because of corporate restructuring." The image struck Tom with a poignant familiarity, a visceral reminder of a name he had once known, now reduced to a subplot in the grand narrative of profit. As she continued, her confidence grew with each passing moment. She had gathered stories not only from former employees, but from families, communities, children, each struggle casting a broader net of humanity, drowning beneath the faceless machinery of commerce. With every testimonial she played, she felt the ripple effects of hope taking root within her. A smiling child, once afraid of being uprooted, was now thriving despite the pitfalls of corporate greed. However, doubt flickered in her mind like a firefly, testing her resolve. What if her message was perceived as misguided or insubordinate? But she ignored the incessant whispering, noting the subtle shifts in her audience. The rigid faces softened, brow furrows deepening with thought. Perhaps this was what they needed, an awakening, a plea to remember their higher purpose. Her final slide glowed ominously on the screen, displaying a quote. "When we lose sight of the people behind our decisions, we lose sight of our humanity." She paused for a moment, the silence so thick it was almost tangible. And then she pressed on, the urgency in her voice rising. "We can do better. We must do better." She spotted Tom's fingers drumming on the table, a telltale sign of his barely contained emotions. Her pulse raced. Would he concede to this new perspective, or would he cling to the safe harbor of old traditions? The meeting concluded not with applause, but with a heavy, contemplative hush. Executives exchanged glances, a silent discussion brewing in the air. Yet Tom remained still, his gaze focused on the projection as if it held the answers to all their lingering uncertainties. The emotional toll of the day weighed heavily on her as she watched him, a man torn between loyalty and newfound realizations. Lily took a deep breath, aware of the spaces between moments, the unstated conflicts and desires swirling about the room. Something unexpected sparked within her, the realization that choice lived both within her and him, and that maybe, just maybe, the journey toward change began with a single step, one ripe with uncharted potential. "You asked what the cost of business was," Tom finally spoke. "But are we prepared to pay the toll that comes with it? But are we prepared to pay the toll that comes with it?" This question hung ominously in the air, pressing against Lily's resolve, forcing her to contemplate the ramifications of what she was demanding. Recognition of the cost surged through her, entwining with her determination. Would she sacrifice every belief for change, or did she have limits? As uncertainty shot through her mind, something else began to unfurl, an opportunity she hadn't anticipated, one that might stretch their connection and redefine their relationship. The journey ahead was fraught with peril. Could she facilitate a transformation not just within her uncle, but the legacy of the company itself? Would she survive the conflict ignited today, or would it dissolve into further chaos? Lily's heart raced with the fervor of potential, and as she stared into the abyss of possibilities before her, she realized she was ready, even if it came with a price. The silence in the boardroom settled like a storm cloud, heavy and foreboding. While the executives remained shrouded in contemplation, Lily's mind raced through a torrent of possibilities, dissecting the repercussions of her presentation. She had opened a door, but was she equipped to step through it? The weight of expectations hung palpably in the air, not just from those around her, but also from within. The question lingering from Tom felt like an anchor, tethering her to the reality she had always pushed aside, the cost of change. Would she be able to confront the very environment she had grown up in, one that was as familiar as it was oppressive? Her heart hailed the idea of transformation, but a chill ran through her at the thought of the chaos that it may unleash. As the board members slowly broke from their stupor and began bustling about the room, Lily decided to focus on Tom. He was a figure caught in a vice, balancing risk with the comforting routine of corporate protocol. As he finally lifted his gaze toward her, she saw a flicker of something unguarded behind his usual steely demeanor. Curiosity? Fear? Perhaps both. "Lily," he said, breaking the silence as he leaned back in his chair, "what you presented today, it's compelling, but changing the course of a ship takes more than just a vision. It requires a change in the captains at the helm." Her pulse quickened. This was the confrontation she had anticipated, but thought herself unprepared for. Would her uncle truly acknowledge the need for change? The moment felt exquisite, a pivotal fracture in the familiarity of their past roles. "And yet," she responded, her voice steady, "the captain cannot steer alone if the crew does not follow." Tom's response came slowly, each word measured as if calibrating the weight of his conviction. "You're challenging the foundational ethos of this company, Lily. We can't just pivot on a dime because we feel it's right. We need to consider what it would cost." "I understand that, but perhaps we've valued profit over people for too long," she shot back, a fire igniting within her. "If we don't evolve, we risk not just our profitability, but our longevity and our morality as a business." An energy shifted between them, palpable and charged. Tom leaned in closer, a slight crease forming on his forehead. "You may think this is a fight worth having, but what if it backfires? What if certain changes don't align with our shareholders?" His voice dipped, almost conspiratorially. "We must reevaluate who we define as our stakeholders," she countered, emboldened by the spirit of her words. "Are we to remain beholden to outdated ideals, or can we embrace innovation even as we respect tradition?" Tom's fingers drummed on the table once more, betraying his internal struggle. For Lily, this moment crystallized a dawning realization. She needed to challenge not just Tom, but the entire ethos of the conglomerate. Peering into her uncle's uncertain face, she understood he stood at a crossroads, just as she was. Then, with a sudden clarity, she began to outline a plan, a series of meetings, focus groups with employees, and potential partnerships with advocacy organizations. She could envision each step becoming a part of a larger movement toward a more humane corporate environment. With every word, she designed a roadmap to a transformation that began with her and Tom, growing into something inevitable. "Let's talk about this more," Tom finally responded, his voice contemplative yet receptive. After all, we must prepare for the consequences of taking action. His agreement was tentative, perhaps even fragile, but it was an opening. As the meeting finally adjourned, Lily felt an invigorating rush. The push for absolution had taken root, yet with it came a trepidation she couldn't shake. Was she ready to chase this change to its very bitter end? Stepping away from the table, she caught a fleeting glimpse of Tom's eyes. Challenge and curiosity intermingled in a way that left her both excited and apprehensive. As she exited the boardroom, a new thought crept along the edges of her mind. What if her uncle wasn't the only one clinging to the past? What if the resistance she feared came from within her own ambitions? In the quiet reflection of the hallway, she stood on the precipice of a choice, one that would redefine both her future and the legacy of the family business she had once thought she understood so well. Would she truly be willing to embrace the cost of a reckoning? As moments passed, a chilling realization set in. The road ahead was both exhilarating and fraught with danger, rapidly closing in on a reckoning she could neither anticipate nor avoid. Did she have what it took to pull the plug on her inherited beliefs for the sake of a new vision? The coming days would demand an answer, and as she turned to face the challenge ahead, determination buoyed her spirit. The time had come to confront not Tom, but the very essence of what had shaped her life. The following days felt like an endless loop for Lily. Each morning awakened a renewed urgency, intensifying that sense of purpose mingled with fear. She found herself animated by her vision, but weighed down by palpable anticipation. The conference room where she'd presented her bold ideas now felt like a shrine. Its emptiness echoed with her previous thoughts of changing the very fabric of the company. Drawing from the events of the board meeting, she drafted an agenda with meticulous attention to detail. Each bullet point aimed to bridge the gap between tradition and innovation, but the reality was anything but straightforward. As she worked late into the nights, buried in reports and data, doubt wove its way through her confidence. Was she just a voice in the wilderness, or could she genuinely instigate meaningful change? Memories of past meetings flooded her mind, times when Tom's voice echoed a warning against drastic measures, cementing a foundation that valued stability above all else, the very foundation she now sought to dismantle. Lily ambled down the hall, carrying stacks of documents in her arms, poring over the latest research on corporate responsibility. The statistics in her hands felt both empowering and disheartening. She was inching closer to uncovering the deeper truths about their operation, about how many employees felt voiceless and even expendable. Her heart thudded violently at the implications. This wasn't merely an internal dialogue. It was a palpable manifestation of change that had to occur. "Hey, are you okay?" came a voice that sliced through her thoughts. It was Mia, her colleague from marketing. Lily paused, caught between the compulsion to reveal her struggles and the need to maintain a facade of strength. "Just trying to make sense of everything," she admitted, forcing a smile that felt brittle. "You seem different lately." There it was, the subtle recognition that she had shifted from being a passive player to someone poised to challenge the status quo. "I've been thinking a lot about the company's direction," Lily confessed, the floodgates of vulnerability creaking open. "It's bigger than just numbers and profits. We need to prioritize our people." Mia swallowed hard, her reflection a stranger to Lily, a blend of intrigue and apprehension. "You're talking about values, Lil. That's tricky territory." Tricky. The word hung between them, laden with meaning. It dawned on Lily, each of the executives had their own anchors, fears, and established beliefs. If she wanted to create movement, she had to initiate those conversations, not just with Tom, but with others. "Do you think others would be open to a conversation?" Lily asked, her heart racing as she processed her own words. Mia considered her question. It depends, but if you can present it clearly and show how it benefits everyone, they might surprise you. That insight ignited a flicker within her. She needed allies, champions for the change she envisioned. It wasn't enough to speak to Tom alone. She had to weave a web of support among those who shared her concerns. As Mia walked away, a new urgency coursed through Lily's veins. Determined, she set about composing an email to rally a mix of colleagues for a casual roundtable discussion. Her pulse quickened as she typed. Each keystroke felt like a commitment. Would she find others who felt the same need for reform? Or would they betray the inertia that governed the corporate landscape? Days passed, and one by one, acknowledgments flowed in. She felt dreams flicker to life. Even a handful of enthusiastic replies made her excitement swell. On a Friday afternoon, the roundtable convened. The meeting room filled with a mix of hopeful faces and reticent glances. As she stood before them, Lily had never felt more transparent, both vulnerable and invigorated. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice steady yet alive with urgency. "We're at a crossroads here, and what we choose today could redefine who we are as a company. This isn't just about profit, it's about our people, about us." But deep within, a voice murmured an unsettling question. Could she lead this without losing herself in the layers of corporate machinations? With every account shared in that room, tension mounted. She felt a current between them, an invisible thread of shared ambition coiling tightly around their collective motivations. In the midst of this evolving conversation, a text buzzed her phone, a message from Tom. "We need to talk. Tomorrow after your roundtable." Suddenly, anxiety punctured her hopes. The conversation she had ignited was bound to face scrutiny. What awaited her on the other side of that meeting? Would her aspirations withstand the storm? The clock ticked ominously, reminding her that answers were drawing closer. Would she be prepared to confront not just the corporate giants, but her own shadow? Lily slept fitfully that night, her mind tangled in an intricate web of possibilities, each thread pulling at her fear and hope alike. Morning light spilled into her room, illuminating the conflict etched across her brow. The impending talk with Tom loomed closer, and her anxiety deepened. In the solitude of her thoughts, she replayed every interaction with him, dissecting every nuance for an inkling of what he might bring forth. As she showered, the water cascaded over her like an icy metaphor for the cold reality awaiting her. She needed to shift the focus from her trepidation to her objectives. Standing in front of the mirror, she willed confidence into her reflection, rehearsing the convictions she gathered at the roundtable. They were right. It was time to speak earnestly about values, to challenge an outdated narrative that prioritized profit over people. Arriving at the office, the atmosphere was thick with tension, as if her colleagues were also anticipating that decisive encounter. The heart of each workstation pulsed with activity, yet the moment felt suspended, as if the office held its breath. Lily slipped into her cubicle, the urge to reinforce what she had begun bubbling beneath her skin. Rather than waiting for Tom's call, she began drafting a follow-up email to the roundtable attendees, detailing a plan for ongoing dialogue and collaboration. Each word she typed served as a promise, a step further away from the shadows of passivity. Time crawled until a knock echoed through her cubicle. It was Tom, his expression inscrutable. "Lily, we're set to talk now." Taking a long, steadying breath, she followed him to an empty conference room. The door clicked shut behind them, a finality settling over the space. It felt as if the walls bore witness to her fortitude, and she drew on that energy to feed her resolve. Tom leaned against the table, arms crossed, his demeanor imposing yet curious. "I saw your email about the roundtable," he began, his voice steady, inviting. "You've stirred quite a few conversations around here." "Conversations we need to have," she replied, her voice stronger than she felt. "The company has the potential to evolve, but it requires a shift in mindset. We must bring our people back into the equation. A shadow crossed Tom's face, but she pressed on. I know some might resist change, but our employees are demanding it, and frankly, so should we. It's not just about what we can gain, it's about what we can build together. He shifted, betraying the slightest crack in his facade. I understand your concerns, but there's a balance we must find. You're passionate. Hell, I admire that. But passion without direction can destabilize what we fought so hard to maintain. But with each word, Lily sensed the edges of that fortress he built beginning to erode. Stability shouldn't come at the cost of our people's morale, Tom. The status quo may feel safe, but is it truly sustainable? What happens when our employees no longer believe in what we represent? Silence engulfed the room, allowing a moment for her words to seep into the spaces between them. Tom's gaze softened momentarily, as if pondering the gravity of her proposition. You're treading on difficult ground, Lily. I'm not saying I can't consider your views, but change is slow, and we have established ways of operating. Maybe we need to reconsider some of those ways, she interjected, emboldened by his flicker of uncertainty. Let's initiate a pilot program, something small that showcases how investing in people can yield significant returns. Use that as a model, show the financial benefits to ease hesitation. It's a calculated risk I'm willing to take if you are. He remained quiet, thoughtful, assessing her with a mix of skepticism and reluctant admiration. The tension swirled around them, a battle between tradition and innovation that Natalie was determined to win. Would he recognize the potential in her ideas, or would corporate inertia render them moot? I'll consider your proposal, Tom finally said, breaking the pause. But we need a plan that limits disruption. If it does well, we can explore scaling it. The room vibrated with the electricity of her unbound. Hope mingled with reality's tethering weight. She felt a surge of adrenaline engulf her. She had entered the room a mere voice, but she was leaving with a proposal that could ignite her vision. As she walked out, her pulse raced with the thrill of uncertainty and the burden of responsibility. Just as she began to savor her small victory, a second message blinked on her phone, forcing her heart back into her throat. We need to chat now. Lily felt the room spin as she recognized the sender. It was Mia. What more awaited her in the tangled web she had begun to weave? The stakes were escalating, and the ground beneath her was shifting once again. Lily's heart hammered in her chest as she stared at Mia's message. The simple sense of accomplishment she had felt moments ago evaporated, replaced by a gnawing unease. She needed to respond to Mia, but a cocoon of doubt surrounded her. What could this meeting possibly entail? Had she stirred the waters too aggressively with Tom? Finding a secluded corner, she reread the message, hoping for clarity. We need to chat now. Each word felt like a siren, pulling her deeper into turbulent waters, undercurrents she hadn't anticipated. The stakes had risen significantly, and she couldn't afford any missteps. Seconds stretched into minutes as she replayed her proposal to Tom. He had shown a glimmer of appreciation, but would he back her when it counted? The budding confidence she had built wavered, pierced by the incoming storm brewing from Mia. With a deep breath, she typed in a quick response. I'm on my way. Where do you want to meet? She hit send, steeling herself for what lay ahead. 4 hours had passed since that day began, and she already felt the weariness settle into her bones, a manifestation of her decision to pursue change. A part of her wondered if it was foolish. If she didn't listen to the fears lurking at the edges of her mind, would she lose sight of the real dangers? Lily navigated through the office, her senses heightened. She observed the people around her, their laughter, their distracted stares, all seemingly unaware of the battle she was waging or the weight of her ambitions. This office was a world unto itself, where her beliefs clashed violently against established norms that prioritized the bottom line over individuals. Arriving at the break room, she found Mia seated at a small table, her body language tight, arms crossed defensively. "Hey," Lily said, her voice betraying her nerves. Mia looked up, her eyes reflecting a complexity that sent Lily's heart leaping. "Lily, I overheard something that, well, I think it's crucial we discuss. It concerns Tom and some decisions he's making for the future of our teams." "What do you mean?" Lily asked, pulling out a chair and sitting across from her friend. The conversational distance felt far too great as unease wrapped its tendrils around them. "There's a push to implement layoffs." "And I've heard your pilot program is part of that conversation. It's a possible scapegoat to offload labor in favor of investing in a smaller, elite team that meets with new expectations." Beneath Mia's words, Lily felt the ground tremble beneath her. "But I thought my proposal would enhance our values, not undermine our workforce. People need reassurance, not fear." "Exactly, but Tom thinks efficiency translates to profits, and the people working with us are just numbers on a spreadsheet. They don't see the potential in investing in the very culture we've built," Mia insisted, frustration building in her voice. "I can't let that happen," Lily replied, her determination reemerging. "Not after we've just begun to reframe the conversation. I need to stand for them, transitioning into a workforce that mirrors our values of collaboration instead of competition." Mia leaned closer, urgency in her tone. "But what can you do? He's powerful, and this is the corporate machine you're up against." Lily's mind raced. Could she turn this revelation into an advantageous move? If she could rally support before the decision-making phase, perhaps she could shift their view. This was about her colleagues, their livelihoods, their belief in the company. "What if," she started, her thoughts crystallizing into a plan, "I use my proposal as a rallying point? If I can strengthen that foundation, then challenge Tom on the benefits of maintaining everyone." "What are you thinking, Lily?" Mia pressed, her skepticism barely masked. "Stop the tides before they rise. Engage everyone in my vision. Get them to share their experiences, their demands. Make it about us, not just my program. If we can create a compelling narrative, maybe we can sway Tom and those behind this plan." "You'll need allies," Mia cautioned. "Then I'll gather them," Lily vowed, a fire igniting within her. She stood taller, resolve coursing through her veins. "Then I will show them what we stand to lose if they pull the rug out from under us." As she walked away, a sense of urgency propelled her forward. The walls of the office felt heavy, yet crackling with potential. Every step toward her colleagues was laden with hope, uncertainty, and, above all, the determination to challenge the looming threat. But every move she made felt charged with the reality that every naive step could unleash unknown consequences. The stakes had risen, and it was no longer simply about her vision for the company. It now encompassed the lives of those who worked within its walls. What awaited her as she assembled her allies? Would they unite behind her cause, or be swept away by the tide of corporate indifference? Tomorrow would reveal all. The following day dawned like an impending storm, laden with tension and electric anticipation. Lily stood in front of the mirror, facing the reflection of a young woman transformed by purpose. Gone was the timid girl who clutched onto her childhood dreams. In her place stood a resolute leader. Today would not just test her resolve, it would frame her identity, the culmination of every trial and triumph she had traversed. As she made her way into the office, she could feel the weight of the decision looming over her, like a specter whispering doubts into her ear. But Lily had a mission. Her enthusiastic plans for collecting support from her colleagues ignited the room with potential, from executive suites to cubicles lined tightly in rows. Each desk housed not just an employee, but a story, an obstacle, and a shared value system waiting to bloom. The morning meeting with her assembled allies had them buzzing with anticipation. The small conference room became a crucible where she hoped to forge a stronger bond among her coworkers. They entered one by one, curiosity etched on their faces. "Thanks for coming, everyone," Lily proclaimed, taking center stage at the head of the table, her heart pounding in accordance with her nerves, but her voice unwavering. "I know you all share concerns for the direction of our company, and I want to ensure our voices are heard. We stand at a crossroads, and together we can shape a narrative that prioritizes our people." A sense of camaraderie filled the room. With each shared experience, Lily felt the hesitance melt away. Her colleagues began recounting their own stories, hundreds of perspectives converging into a mosaic of urgent accountability. They spoke not of protocols or profit margins, but about their lives, their families, and the sacrifices that had molded their commitment to the company. It became increasingly clear this was about more than a pilot program. This was an opportunity to connect the values they cherished with a coalescing vision for the future. "The fear of layoffs has spread like a pall," one coworker said, his voice low as he shared his worries. "I don't want to be turned into a number on a spreadsheet." "Me neither," another interjected, her eyes blazing with urgency. "Our humanity must be front and center in our outcomes." As the various threads intertwined, a passionate discussion emerged, voices growing louder, faces igniting with enthusiasm. It was a moment of pure empowerment, igniting something profound within Lily. This was not just her fight, they were all in this together. Fueled by collective strength, she shared her idea of a company-wide forum where everyone could voice their concerns and aspirations. "Let's show Tom and the leadership team that our concerns echo throughout our office. We will present our shared vision as an unyielding front to embrace a corporate culture that values both success and well-being." As she spoke, members nodded in agreement, some even beginning to clap rhythmically to the promise she was forging. Inspired, an unexpected ally came forth. "I have connections to a local media outlet interested in highlighting stories of corporate cultures that prioritize humanity. We could create an article featuring our voices." "Exactly," Lily said, exhilaration coursing through her as they pushed the momentum forward. "We need to ensure our combined narrative resonates beyond boardroom walls and reaches the community. The world is watching, and our people matter." With every exchange of ideas flowing freely, there was an electric atmosphere of solidarity, a sense of camaraderie bridging the gaps between departments. A chorus of voices erupted, proposals layered upon each other, each one more innovative than the last. Ideas began crystallizing, tactical action plans materializing to cultivate open dialogue throughout the organization. As the meeting progressed, an unmistakable realization blossomed within Lily. She wasn't only fighting to defend their current roles, she was advocating for the very essence of their humanity amidst a relentless corporate machine. The energy fueled her conviction, rejuvenating her goal to not only salvage her mother's happiness, but restore hope for everyone. Yet, in the midst of this uplifting momentum, doubt still lurked in her thoughts like a glitch in the narrative. What would her uncle think once he gleaned this unyielding resolve from his employees? Would he still see her generation's strength as a threat or embrace their call for accountability? Returning to her desk, she composed an email to Tom, highlighting the success of their meeting and cordially inviting him to discuss a collective vision for healing the company culture. Her fingers hovered over the keys, battling uncertainty until an unwavering voice within told her this was it. This was the redefining moment she had worked tirelessly toward, and she would embrace the consequences with open arms. "Dear Tom," she typed, "I wanted to share the incredible momentum we gathered today. Our employees are passionate, eager for change, and have united their voices to advocate for our values. They are not just numbers, they are the heart of this company. I'd love to discuss this with you at your earliest convenience, as I believe it could transform our strategies for the better." With the email sent, an exhilarating sense of liberation washed over her. She had conjured a tidal wave of support, and she felt its energy resonate within her. As she awaited Tom's response, a keen awareness settled inside her. The path ahead would not be simple. The confrontation was inevitable, but this time, Lily was prepared to dive headfirst into the storm, confident that change either began or ended with them. She had crossed a threshold, and she would not retrace her steps. Her cell buzzed suddenly, drawing her attention away from anxious contemplation. It was Tom. He had agreed to meet, and in that instant, a flood of determination engulfed her. Today was the day that the narrative of her mother's sacrifice, her fight for humanity in business, and the unified voices of her colleagues would finally converge into one tangible vision for change. "Bring it on," she whispered to herself, steeling her heart for the battle to come. Today, Lily wouldn't just contend for a better future. She would conquer it. "Now is the moment to seize change, and I won't back down," she vowed to herself as she prepared to step into the next chapter of her journey. Her legacy awaited, a tapestry of resilience threaded through grit, compassion, and the undeniable quest for shared values. And if this were any indication, the tides were shifting. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that'll resonate with your dreams of personal overcoming. Leave a like now. Every single click feeds the algorithm and truly makes a difference in reaching others eager for inspiration. Comment below your reactions and theories about how our brave Lily will navigate the challenges ahead. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of transformation. The moment is now. Join the journey.